Welcome to the Eye on Annapolis Local Business Spotlight. There are thousands of locally owned businesses in the area, some small and some large. Some you may know and others you don't. But one thing they all have in common is a great story, and we want to share it with you. Join us every Saturday as we talk to the founders, the owners, and the managers of local businesses you have come to know and love, and those you will come to know and love. Now here's your host, John Frenay, with this week's Local Business Spotlight.
Well, we're back here at 635 North Bestgate Road, which was the home of Movement Mortgage, but it is also the home of Abode Title and Escrow. And we're here with Olivia Search. How are you?
I'm very, very well. How are you today?
Thank you for inviting me back into this lovely conference room. I guess, when we're talking about real estate, okay, title and escrow, you're the nuts and the bolts of the transaction.
We are. We're the end game. If you get to us, everything has gone really well.
Is that a guarantee?
Generally, by the time you reach the settlement table, everything should have been resolved. That is the day for celebration. We have found our house of choice. We're in an agreement. We have gotten our money from our lender. Now somebody has to sit down and explain the paperwork to us and move the money around safely.
So are you the person that tells me that I just took a loan? I remember my first house, and my ex-wife said, it was a $120,000 loan or something like that. I said, look at this paperwork. It says we've got $1 million house. Is that your job?
It kind of is. So what we do is, obviously people know the realtor is the first face they see, if not the lender, and they go out and they look at all of these wonderful, beautiful houses and put an offer in on one. We are the ones that look back at the history of the ownership of that house and see how many people have owned it before. Are all of their debts paid off? You don't want to inherit anything. When you're borrowing $100,000 to buy real estate and putting in $50,000 of your own hard-earned dollars, you don't want to move in and find out a week, a year down the road that there's a $10,000 tax bill that's never been paid, or that the people you bought it from opened up a home equity line of credit 2 weeks before settlement and never paid it off. You don't want to inherit those kinds of issues. You want to move into your house and unpack, paint, and live happily ever after. So title insurance is rare in that it covers you, the new homeowner, for past issues that aren't yours.
Is that frequent?
It is frequent enough that whenever somebody sits down and says, well, I think it says owner's title insurance, I should say, is optional. And they'll go, oh, well, I'd rather save the $900, $1,000 and take my chances. It's insurance just like any other insurance. You're a really, really safe driver. You hadn't had an accident in 15 years. You pay your insurance on a monthly basis anyway. You're a super healthy person. You wake up every morning, you jog 10 miles, you drink your protein shakes, you take your multivitamins. You have health insurance anyway, just in case. The difference there is when you're talking about your home, most people only own one. Most people only live in one at a time. So if you face a claim that could potentially be catastrophic and take your home away from you, and you don't have insurance.
Oh, wow. I mean, you talked about past taxes, but what types of other claims get involved in that?
So there is past property taxes. Those sort of sneak their head up, or health code violations. Different cities have things where you can be fined if you leave your trash outside the house too long. Those things aren't necessarily easy to find. You don't just Google tax bill and that pops up. There's a little more research that goes into finding those kinds of things, which is why we're involved. But frequently, the reason why I said home equity line is that happens. Somebody will go out before settlement, maybe a month or two before settlement, maybe weeks before settlement. Usually somebody's selling a house and turning around and buying a house. Maybe they need some more cash. They go, well.
So here's a bridge loan.
Yep, here's basically a bridge loan. Let us go out and take out this money. We'll use it to buy the next house, and then we'll take care of it. Honest people take care of it. Dishonest people forget or intend to pay it off. But there's also, unfortunately, something that happens where we pay off home equity lines and the lender reaches out to you and says, hey, thank you for paying down your equity line. You now have access to the full $150,000 whenever you'd like to borrow it.
Yes.
Here's a fresh checkbook. One of my least favorite stories, I've been in the business 25 years, is a gentleman did just that. He sold his house and then he got that letter from his lender saying, congratulations, you now have full access to all $150,000 in your loan. Here's a fresh checkbook. He went out and bought a boat. Then his new homeowner that he sold the house to 6-7 months later went to refinance. Interest rates dropped. Brought the transaction back to us, and we did a title search, and we went, hey, this equity line isn't closed. Reached out to the bank and said, you guys, here's proof that we paid it off. Here's the letter that the seller signed at settlement saying, close it. And they said, oh, we can't close it. There's a new balance on it. Luckily, in that situation, we called the seller, and the seller was mortified, so embarrassed. He said, I am so sorry. I did not realize, because he said, sir, you can't do this. It was tied to a house that you don't own anymore. So luckily, he went through the steps to get a personal loan to pay off that bank loan. But we've had an instance where a seller said, not my problem.
So do you actually, as a title and escrow company, I mean, do you yourself and the folks that work with you dig into these things?
We dig in deep to these things.
I mean, obviously you've got tools and stuff like that to do that, but I'm trying to think. My son was looking at buying a house up in Baltimore one time, and there was something crazy with I can't remember what it was, but there was something that somebody came back through the realtor and said, no, this is just not going to work. This is a bad situation. It was the woman's employment had ended, and you could tell that they just needed to get out really quickly. And there was something that happened
that wasn't quite driving right. Yeah, no, we look at court records, specifically the land records department, but then we look at the property tax records. We look at zoning and permitting. We look at the utilities for water, sewer, because those are usually tied to the property. We look at bankruptcy court records. We look at the office of the OFAC for anybody who's on an FBI watch list for
money laundering
funds, money laundering.
Wow.
We do all of that so that then when we come together with you at the settlement table, as the buyer, you don't even have to think about it. You're buying a house. You guys are moving in. That's it. That's all you know. And then you move forward with your life. We've done all the background check. Just like when you meet with the lender, they're going to go through all of your finances and make sure, can you actually afford this property? Can we safely give you a loan that you're going to actually pay us back? They look at you. We look at your property.
The moral of that story is to get the title insurance.
Get the title insurance.
And that way you just have to call Olivia and say, hey, fix this.
Exactly. And that's what I tell, again, when somebody sits there and goes, maybe I'll just save that $900. I'm like, look, this means if you have an issue that pops up in 3 weeks, you get a water bill that you're like, how do I owe $1,000? Or if it's 3 years from now, you go to refinance or sell the house in 5 and something pops up, you can just call me. And you only pay for it the one time. You only pay for it at the real estate closing. Your homeowner's insurance, in case the house burns down, you pay that every year. You pay your car insurance monthly, quarterly, annually. Same thing with your health insurance. This is a one-time fee. It covers you one and done, and it covers you forever, for as long as you own the house. If you pass away in that house and you leave it to your kids, they inherit the coverage. To me, I'm like, this is an absolute no-brainer. It's pennies on the dollar that we're talking, and it covers you for eternity.
Well, that seems to be like a no, like I said, a no-brainer. Now, where do you, who brings you into the picture here? I mean, I have never thought about saying, hey, I need to find Abode title and escrow.
Right. Yeah.
Is it a realtor? Is it a mortgage company?
It is a rare unicorn where a buyer actually knows who we are before having had a conversation with their lender and their realtor. So it is usually one of those two puzzle pieces that fits us in, because it gets to the point with the lender where, okay, you have your ratified contract and now it's passed on, and the lender and the realtor will say, who do you want to handle title? 9.5 out of 10 times the buyer's going to say, who's title? So, we do make it our business to know a lot of realtors and a lot of loan officers, loan originators, to get our name out there, so that hopefully when somebody says, whose title, they do suggest us in the conversation. Yeah.
Well, I've got to think, you mentioned you've been in the business 25
years this October.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You probably know your stuff.
I'd like to think I do. I had wonderful mentors, and the more transactions you do, the more you learn. Title is an interesting business in that you'll almost never see the same issue twice. You always see new issues, new things, and they're all learning experiences.
Let's say I didn't pay my taxes,
Mm-hmm.
and comptroller, I would say Francho, but we'll go with Learman because she's the comptroller now, throws a tax lien, or the IRS throws a tax lien on me.
Mm-hmm.
Is that necessarily on the house? I mean, it could be.
So in the state of Maryland, it absolutely is. So if you own a property with your husband, wife, domestic partner, you own it in something called tenants by the entirety, there's certain protections that certain types of liens don't attach to your mutually owned property. Income taxes are not one of them. So if you have a comptroller bill hanging out there and they've given you notice that you have a lien, we will find it and we will ask you to pay it at the time of closing. In some instances, people don't have enough equity, or they're already in the middle of a payment arrangement with the comptroller's office or the IRS. And there are still workarounds where they can make a partial payment and the IRS will issue us a letter that says 123 Main Street is clear of this lien, even though we know we're not paying off the entire balance.
Okay.
We just have that documentation in our file and for your buyer, future homeowner, so that if it does crop up in the future, then they have title insurance, and we have that documentation that says they accepted $5,000 from the sale of your house and allowed you to
proceed with
the closing.
What happens after closing and something does come up?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say, I mean, it's insurance. Okay. So in a perfect world, you never need it.
Yes.
And Olivia has done all of her things, and there is this house is, crystal clean, scrubby WW. Now, all of a sudden, what happens if I find something? I go to refinance my house.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden I say, hey, well, you've got this clown that bought a boat.
Right.
What do? I call you up and go, hey, you screwed it up?
You do. You call us up, or if you're not working with us, again, if you're working with a different title company, in the case of a refinance, you might just tell your lender, send it to whomever you work with normally, right? And that might not be us. So that title company pulls a new search and looks at things and goes, oh, this didn't get released, whether it be the tax lien, like we were just talking about, or whether it's a home equity line. Especially in Maryland, because we are locally owned title agents, the majority of us, we have relationships. They'll pick up the phone and call. You'll pick up the phone and call, or you'll email and you'll say, hey, such and so title company, we were doing a title search. We're getting ready to close. This looks like it may be an issue. Can you tell us what you did? And again, 7 times out of 10, we'll get back a bunch of information that shows it's really not a problem. It just needs to be sort of cleaned up with a little bow. Something got missed at the very end, and we get the documentation we need. We clean it up for you.
There's something not. I mean, where's the insurance? There's somebody with a big pot of money that...
Yes, and that is... So we're title agents. All of us title agents have a title insurance underwriter. Mine is WFG. Others are with Fidelity or Chicago Title, Tycor, Security. These are all the big title companies that actually have the big pockets. So let's say, for instance, there is a valid claim against your house for a $200,000 home equity line that when your seller gets contacted says, I have nothing to do with it. It's not my problem. It's your problem. We will, as the agent, get in contact with the actual underwriter who will hire an attorney, usually locally, possibly an attorney already affiliated with your title agent, to defend you and at least get that mortgage off of your property. Sometimes it is they just pay it off and then deal with everything in the background. But either way, you as the homeowner get it handled. Maybe, depending on what the issue is, there may be a deductible if it's really, truly nothing that you could have known, should have known. It may just be handled completely without any deductible. And then we just report back to you as things progress.
Well, I know that real estate transactions tend to be the most paper-intensive things in the world. And I'm sure they're getting a little bit better now with, electronic. But I just know when my son purchased a house recently, about a year and a half ago, I mean, it took 8 months to show up and, for the deed to transfer through. His homestead exemption still has not shown through yet. And, I can see where things can be ships to pass in the night, which is probably a really horrible analogy right now, but that's...
with the Key Bridge. But No, there are different jurisdictions. A couple of years ago, Maryland started allowing electronic filing, and that's sped things up quite a bit. But there are still some jurisdictions that are sort of catching up. So we're used to seeing a lag time of anywhere from 30 to 120 days between going to settlement and actually seeing somebody's deed go into public record. But other jurisdictions are amazing. Anne Arundel County, we did a settlement this morning. The deed's already on record because we can scan in an image, we can send it through a secure system, and somebody at the courthouse sits there, looks at it. It looks good.
All the boxes have been checked.
Yep. That's sort of a rare animal, but we can, in some instances, see same day or within 5 to 10 days that we can see it. But then being able to see it for the general public might take an additional 5 to 10. So title insurance covers that period that's called the gap. In theory, if you have a seller who came to us in the morning and sold their house to you in the morning, and then at 3:30 sold their house, the same exact house, to someone else, Maryland's what's called a race state. Whoever's deed gets on record first is the owner of the property. And then, Lord willing, you guys got title insurance to
work it out,
help you mitigate that fraud issue. I only have one story that's tied to that from many, many, many years ago. And it was not something that my company handled. But again, all of us Maryland title companies are, for the most part, locally owned, and everybody knows one another. And agents certainly know who everybody is. And our agent called on a weekend and said, my buyer's at this house to move in, and there are 2 other buyers also here to move in. Everybody sold, bought the property from the seller, who was a brother selling his property that he owned with his other brother. Brother number 2 was in the United States military and was out of the country, and brother 1 presented a power of attorney. So he didn't have representation from a realtor. He was a for sale by owner.
Oh.
So he accepted all 3 offers and then set up the settlements like dominoes.
I thought that was bad enough the time I walked into a hotel room and there was a guy sleeping in the bed.
Yeah. The hotel room, you walk out and you go, I think you gave him the wrong key to the wrong room. Yeah.
Wow.
Imagine pulling up on a Saturday with all of your stuff in a moving truck and seeing 2 other families there.
Moving in. Holy mackerel.
Going, what do we do? So, yeah.
Things
like that do happen.
You sound like you're a stealthy little person that works around in the background to make sure everything works out really well. You're sort of the grease that goes in the whole thing to make sure it all goes smoothly.
Yes, that's a good way to describe us.
And as you said, the first time I'm probably going to meet you in a transaction is sitting across a conference table right here. And you come in with a whole stack of papers and you leave with half a stack and I keep the other half.
That's exactly what it looks like. And I do joke with people sometimes that, because if you don't hear from us during, you're talking to your lender almost every day and their team, you're talking to your realtor to make sure home inspection and pest inspection and septic and well and rate, all those things are done. You're talking to them all the time and you're seeing them all the time. And then we show up and it's like, oh, that's right. There's the title company. There's another. That's a good thing. If you don't hear from us, that's a good thing. That means everything that we're doing is going smoothly.
What's the difference between you and a title attorney? And I've heard that term before. Is there a difference?
There is a difference. And there is a difference.
Obviously, they're attorneys and you're probably not.
Right. In the state of Maryland, other states are slightly different. But here in Maryland, you can be a licensed title producer, which means that you've gone through an education process. You have a license, you have insurance, and you are bonded. And you have a regular, reoccurring education requirement to renew your license.
Is that you?
That's me.
Okay.
Title attorneys, a true title attorney is usually a real estate certified lawyer. They've gone to school for law plus a little extra in the real estate realm. And title attorneys own title companies and are title agents. They just don't have to do the background education. They do have a continuing education piece that is required just to make sure they're up with ethics and et cetera, but they don't have the same
so it's essentially the same function.
Yes, but they are licensed to practice law and went to school for quite a long time as opposed to me. So.
Right, probably have a little bit more.
Yes, they're...
Well, the other half of Abode Title and Escrow is Escrow, okay? And that's, when you go through a home purchase, there's money flying all over the place. I mean, you've got home inspectors that need to be paid. You've got realtors that need to be paid. You've got the home seller needs to be paid, or the builder, or what, the whole nine. And you facilitate all that as well, right?
We do. We facilitate all of that. Whether you're buying without a loan or whether you're buying with a lender, we create the settlement statement. HUD-1, closing disclosure, or ALTA. Those are words that get tossed around a lot. We create those. If you're working with a lender, we do that in conjunction with them, which line itemization all of your different fees that go into purchasing the home, all of your loan fees, all of your title fees, your transfer and recording taxes that go to the state, all the liens that we're paying off to pay off for the seller. Everything is transparent. If it's not on the settlement statement, it shouldn't exist.
Okay. So if a home buyer or a home seller says, okay, I'll give you $3,000 at closing, that's listed on this form as well.
Correct.
As a negative to his and a plus to mine, or
exactly right. If you were otherwise going to owe $3,000 to go to settlement, you'll see on the settlement statement that there's a $3,000 credit from the seller to you, and now you owe nothing to go to settlement. If you would have otherwise owed $99,000, now you only owe $96,000 because we've deducted that $3,000 from your bottom line. So it's less money out of your pocket, but we're not actually going to hand you a $3,000 check. We're going to take it all together and through the wash.
In the end, I mean, are you still writing checks?
We do. We do on occasion write checks. It's dependent on the seller's preference if they want a check or a wire. Buyers, because of how quickly we have to move things. In most cases, unless the dollar figure they owe is small, we do still want to see a wire. They are actually very safe, provided you make sure you're getting the wire information from the trusted source.
For sure.
And I think at this point in time, agents, meaning real estate agents, lenders and title companies alike, are very clear with the buyer and the seller. We are not going to last minute change our wire instructions on you. And if you've been emailing with Olivia at closedatabode.com this entire time, and then you get an email from abodesettlements@gmail.com that says these are new wire instructions, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't send it. Make a phone call. By now, you have talked to your lender multiple times. You've talked to hey, I just got new wire instructions from the title company. Do you think this is okay? Where did they come from? Have you talked to the title company? Oh, no, I haven't. What's that number? Your realtor knows what your title company's number is. Do a conference call, verify it. But, and then for receiving wires from us, when we send them out, we tell you, hey, we've sent your money. It should be in your account before close of business. The one that we closed this morning, I said, let me know if you don't see it by 2. We sent it 10:15. They had it by 11:30. So the money does generally travel fast. And if you don't see it the same day, pick up the phone, make a phone call, send an email.
Nothing wrong with making a phone call.
Yeah, nothing wrong with just being like, hey, you were supposed to send me $100,000. It's been 4 hours. Where is it?
Yeah, I just ignore people that owe me $100,000.
Right. Yeah, we're not going to be mad at you because if somehow it got sent someplace else, we only have so much time to recall it and try and fix the issue. If you wait and say, I was supposed to send it this morning and now it's Friday. Today's Tuesday and now it's Friday. And you call me and say, I never saw the money.
One time I got a new bank account and I transposed 2 numbers on the IRS and there was a refund I was owed.
And it went to them.
And all of a sudden it's like, we've processed it. I'm like, it's not here. It's not here. And ultimately the bank was smart enough to realize that, because I guess they looked at the name and stuff, but it still took forever to go back and then come back where it needed to be. To the IRS's credit, they actually paid me interest.
Oh, that was very nice of them.
On the time, which I was absolutely shocked at. I said, this is not, but it's not the right amont. And it was like, it's like an extra $40
right. And they were like that. I'm like, we paid you some interest.
Okay, kids, pizza tonight.
Yeah. So we do that too. We'll send you, fill this out through a secure portal. Let us know if you want to wire, give us your information through this secure portal. And then when you come to settlement, or when we have settlement, because we might be coming to you.
Ask it again.
We hand it to you. We hand you what you filled out and say, look at this again. Just double check it. If this is all correct, can you initial next to it? check twice, send once.
How fast do closings take now?
So that is also subjective. We have a couple of lenders that we work with who are now offering hybrid closings where maybe 60 to 70% of the paperwork is actually signed electronically. And of that paperwork, a lot of what borrowers sign is repeat information. It's redundant paperwork because there's expiration dates on how long certain documents are good for. A handful of lenders are now those redundant documents you get to e-sign, because you've already signed it 3 or 4 times over the last 90 days. And then we sit with you and go over the more important meats and bones documents. Things like your note, your deed of trust, the deed, things that are really important
that you
need to have. So I try and be very concise and communicate the information in a very clear way. I'd say 60% of people at settlement listen to what I have to say, maybe ask a question or two, sign the document. Some people want to read every single page, which is absolutely within their right. So settlement can go for 15 to 20 minutes, or it can go for up to 2 hours.
Okay, gosh.
So just depends on your personality type.
Do you have any advice for any home buyers to make your job easier, to make the process easier?
So first-time home buyers, certainly,
they're just like deer in the headlight, aren't they?
They are kind of like deer in the headlight. And I say for them, talk to friends, talk to family, people that you know have just bought houses in the last 3 to 5 years. Work with a team of people that you have been referred to. There is a lot of, I went online, I went to a .com lender, I went to a .com look for the house myself website. I think even repeat buyers are starting to do this as well, because there's a misconception that you'll save money if you don't use a human, and there's still humans in the background. People are still getting paid one way or the other.
Sure.
So take advantage of working with somebody local. Take advantage of working with somebody who worked with your mom, dad, uncle, best friend, who they can say, you know, I really enjoyed spending 2 months in a car, you know, following around so-and-so. They didn't care that I took 10 minutes at each house I looked at. They explained everything really well to me. They did X, Y, and Z, or, you know, talk to this guy or gal who gave me my loan. I never felt like I was asking a stupid question.
Or alternatively, they were horrible. Don't go.
Right.
Don't
or
use them.
Alternatively, create the, you know, pros and cons list. But I would definitely say work with a local human being. Work with somebody who is a local professional. Don't necessarily .com it.
Well, they're here for you. I mean,
right.
Olivia, you're here for the people. I mean, you want to get paid. You want to get in and out of this transaction and move on to the next. The people that are coming into you want to get in and out of this transaction and get into their new home or get out of their old home.
Correct.
The realtors want to get you in so they can sell the next. I mean, so, you know, working with a person and I might even go so far as to say, just, you know, make sure you're just unflinchingly honest with, you know, what you think you can afford, what you really want. They're going to be able to find something for you because they do know the market. They do know, you know, as we talked with Movement Mortgage, I mean, they know the local economy. They know what can be done.
Yep. And we might run into you in the grocery store. Our kids might be on the same soccer team at some point. Like, we live where we work. We want to do the best by you. And no question is a stupid question. I don't care if it's your first house or your 40th house. Right. Ask the question, because if you don't ask the question,
you're not going to get the answer.
Yeah. And you might not like the answer, but there's that too. You know, just because you talk to a lender who says, you know, I know you say you want this, but you can't afford that. Or the realtor that says, I know you said you wanted to look at, you know, what you could afford, but let's look at something $100,000 higher because maybe we could get it cheap. Know your budget, stick to your budget, you know, especially if it's your first house. Don't super stretch it. You might only be in this house for the next 3 to 5 years. And then you can call that agent and say, I'm ready to sell this one. And now I'm ready for the house that cost $150,000, $200,000 more.
Fantastic. Well, I will say that if anybody is in the market for a home, and as you said, typically your business comes in through the realtor or the mortgage originator, put the bug in them. Put the bug in your realtor. It's Abode, Title, and Escrow. They're right here. They're local. Don't be stuck to the whims of a .com or of whatnot. And, I don't think any realtor or any mortgage company is going to turn around and say, oh, we don't want to work with that specific title agency.
Right.
And if you've got a preference, here we've spoken with you for, I don't know how many minutes it's been, but real person, she's got a, I don't know, Afghan kind of a tunic.
Yeah, a tunic top.
Something or other like that. It's coral colored and, deal with real people. Deal with real people that are local in our community, because in the end, local people are what make the community run, not some big corporate entity out in, Minnesota or something like that, or some virtual whatever it may be.
Yeah, because everybody will take your business. It's just how well will they service your business.
Thanks for listening to this week's Local Business Spotlight. Please make sure to visit eyeonannapolis.net for all your local news, events, and opinion. And in case you haven't already, please subscribe to the Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief, where we bring you all the day's local news direct to your phone, tablet, or computer in about 10 minutes. It comes to you at 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday, and you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.